Next up, we're going to have Özgün, who co-founded Citus Data, exited that to Microsoft, and now founded Ubicloud, one of our portfolio companies, and Kaan, who's the founder of Firefly, one of our Fund One portfolio companies, friends from elementary school and high school. Funny story there, we met at a dumpling shop in Palo Alto in 2017, and he told me about Firefly, and I said it's the worst idea ever. We ended up investing, and the company is killing it, so that's how good of an investor I am. But let's have you guys on stage, and let's get this rolling. Dude, I love your energy.
Yeah. Hey.
Thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just for sort of logistics, I think this is the last session before a coffee break, so we'll have one in like 25 minutes, hopefully. Thanks, guys, for coming. So this is more about sort of going global with Turkish engineering power, which practically means, as sort of Turkish companies, how the hell did you guys sort of manage to go other places and sort of grow? And I think we can sort of maybe start with a round of intros, obviously. So Özgün, if you don't mind, like your background, Citus Data, Ubicloud, just give us a bit of an overview in terms of...
happy to share more.
Yeah.
So I'm Özgün, I'm one of the founders at Ubicloud. If I take this all the way back, I started my career as a software developer at Amazon. This was up in Seattle. And then afterwards, I co-founded Citus Data. Umur was one of my founders, along with Sumit. We tried doing it here in Istanbul, and now we did part of it in here, and now part of it in San Francisco. I'll share more. And then as we figured out what the heck we were doing with the startup, we had really good traction, sold the company to Microsoft in 2019. Umur and I led Azure Postgres teams for 4 years afterwards at Microsoft, left Microsoft, and then we co-founded, along with Daniel, Ubicloud.
Yep. What does, just since we're on that topic, what does Ubicloud do? Like, can you give me a brief sort of intro into that as well?
I'll give the two-sentence description. So Ubicloud is an open source alternative to AWS. So it's an open source cloud, and you can self-host our software, or you can use our managed cloud at a fraction of the cost of AWS.
So you're going up against AWS?
Yes, and Azure and Google Cloud. Yeah.
Cool. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and then Kaan, maybe a little bit of your backstory as well. If I remember correctly, you started off as like a hedge fund guy, right? Like back in the day.
That's correct.
Very interesting, very sort of fun finance stuff.
Exactly.
How did you move into sort of startups? Because I remember there's a story with Kerem from Just Mop as well.
Yes,
if I'm not wrong.
That's correct. So I was working at a hedge fund, and I disliked it very much. It was very long hours, like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every weekend.
I'm sure like startup life is not very short hours
No,
either, but I don't think you'll...
I thought it was going to get better, but it actually got worse, so I'll get to that shortly. But after about 2.5 years at a fund, I decided I didn't want to do this any longer. And one of my very close friends from high school, his name is Kerem, he started a company, amazing company called Just Life. So I called him. He had just raised some seed funding, like they were super small. And I was like, Kerem, I don't need any money. I just want to understand what it is like to work at a startup. Can I please come and intern with you? But I said, like, I need a place to stay. So he said, I have 2 roommates. You can't sleep on the couch, but you can come and sleep with me in the same bed. I said, that sounds even better. And I went to Dubai. I stayed with him for about 6 months. And I just fell in love with building a company, with working with friends. And that's how I decided to build a company.
Like,
this was early 2016. 2016, January through May.
And then that sort of process over time turned into Firefly.
Yes. So I basically said, look, this is great. I was going to go to the Bay Area to business school. So I told him, look, it's May. I'm starting business school in September. I love the startup thing. I have 3 more months. I'd love to experience what it is like to build a startup in the Bay Area. Like, do you know anyone? And he said, I don't know anyone who is who owns a startup, but I have this friend, his name is Onur. He is actually working at a startup, so you can message him. So very randomly, I messaged this guy on Facebook. I'm like, look, I'm coming to the Bay Area. I heard you're into startups. Like, I'd love to learn more and work with you. And he turned out to be crazy, so he said, he has never met me before. He's like, just come and stay with me for 3 months. And I jumped on a plane.
You have a way of attracting people who want to stay with you for...
Super random.
Are you sure this is business related, like in general? Have you ever thought about that?
And then I went and I stayed with them for 3 months. We became very close, and we actually ended up starting Firefly together. And that's...
what does Firefly do?
We're a platform that monetizes mobility, and we do that by placing advertising on vehicles like taxis and rideshare vehicles. So all the advertising tops that you see anywhere, like in New York, in Vegas, like across the board in the US, all the taxi wraps that you see in the UK, anything that you see advertising related in Toronto on vehicles, like we own and operate pretty much. We're the market leader and we're scaling, so.
Cool, all right. So maybe, Özgün, let's talk a little bit about, and I'll get to Kaan as well with this, how you guys maybe like both with Ubicloud, but also maybe even before with Citus Data, expanded to the US, that kind of a process of starting in Turkey and then moving more to US, YC as well. How did that look in practice? What kind of a team makeup did you guys have back at the time? Like how much of the team was over here versus over in the US? And sort of how did that process go?
Well, when we first co-founded Citus Data, we started here as the co-founders. So it was just us building a prototype. And we tried to fundraise. Nobody would give us money here in Istanbul. And then we applied to a program called Y Combinator. And then we got in, summer 11. So we moved for the summer.
You're one of the OGs, right? Like early sort of YC guys.
It was very early, like PG was running the show, like Paul Graham was running the show. It was like the partnership. You'd interview with everyone. The batch expanded to 60 companies, and that was a lot back then. So we did YC, and then we did our fundraise with YC. We then moved back to Istanbul, and then tried to sell what we were building to the folks in here, but then no one would actually buy what we were building, because I think it was ahead of the market for here. And concurrently, we had people from Silicon Valley emailing us. These are other YC startups or companies asking, hey, like, we'd like to try you out. At that point, as the co-founders, we moved to San Francisco. And we started forming a small engineering team in here in Istanbul, and then we kept that team and we grew that team. So I think it was mostly just we couldn't raise in here, and then we couldn't sell in here, and then that's how we expanded and then moved the HQ to the US.
Okay. And with Ubicloud, you guys were, since always there after the sort of the Microsoft transition, etc. Did you hire from Turkey in general, or like from other regions as well? How's the team structured today?
We did. We're almost all engineering, and it's mostly predominantly people from Citus and Microsoft. In fact, Enes, one of our engineers here in Istanbul, is in the audience. We have a few people here in Turkey. We have a few people in Europe, in Amsterdam. And now we have a few people, of course, in the US too. So we're distributed as an organization. And that has its challenges, but the benefit we had was pretty much everyone worked together for 5, 6, 7 years. So we already had a working relationship established.
And everyone knew each other and the culture was set.
Yes, exactly.
And Kaan, for you, like you started in the US, but if I remember correctly, when you guys were sort of from sort of Enes's stories as well, building the first prototypes and then in fact, like the first product as well, it was manufactured in Manisa, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so like how did that sort of happen? You guys were based in, I think at the time in SF?
That's right.
But with an engineering sort of, both engineering and manufacturing operations in Turkey.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
So we started while I was in business school. And so my co-founder, Onur, who I just spoke about, So he was leading more product and engineering for us. And we had pre-sold the product before we had anything. So we pre-sold a few campaigns and we said, okay, like if someone buys it, then we'll figure out a way to build this product. So we sold a few campaigns and then we were like, now we need a product and we need it very quickly. And I mean, Turkey is a great manufacturing hub globally. So we said, I'm sure there is a factory in Turkey that can build a prototype for us. So we got on a plane, we went to Manisa, visited a few factories, and we stayed there for a few days until a prototype was ready, and then we shipped it to the US. I think we made a mistake by moving manufacturing to China. Now with all the tariffs and
Now with
the
all
craziness in the world, maybe it would have been better if we stayed in Manisa. So it's something we're looking at. Maybe we'll move back. Who knows? But currently, we do have engineering operations and back office operations in Turkey.
Got it. So for, I guess, like both of you, working with these sort of two different team structures, how do you guys then sort of set the culture? Like what I mean by that is both the working relationship between the HQ and the engineering team in Turkey, for example, for Citus or for Ubicloud across different countries or for Firefly as well. You know, how do you create the right working culture within an organization when there are sort of different teams across globally?
It's hard. I feel it's slightly easier with Ubicloud because the team that's doing this now is the team that has done it before, and there's already an established culture, working culture. So it's easier in a sense. But what's most important is to make sure that knowledge disseminates within the organization in the right way. And there are different ways to structure the org, to do that. I mean, I think I read a study by law firms, because law firms are distributed in their sense. The way the knowledge disseminates is either you're working on the same project, and now you can be in different locations, but you have to talk to each other. Or you're in the same location together, you're working on different projects, but then just haphazardly by having lunch and whatnot, the knowledge disseminates. So we try very hard to make sure that we enable that communication channel.
Do you like physically get together every once in a while, or like?
We do, and then we're also thinking who needs to know what, because and the more of it that we can do, the better. Because I mean, if I were to, here's what I think. I mean, I looked at this. If I were to clone myself, and one of my clones lived, and now with the exact mental model that I have, and if one of my clones lived in San Francisco and the other clone lived in Amsterdam, and we didn't talk to each other, say for a year, we probably at the end of the year would make different decisions because you have all these inputs. So how do we make sure that that information flows is key, and how we engineer for that information flow is key.
Kaan?
I think that's pretty well summarized. I will add, we have a very strong HR team that makes sure that the whole company communicates. We do try to do all hands meetings. And obviously, like making sure that the teams are interacting at a specific cadence in person, I think is important as well.
Yeah, got it. One thing that we always sort of try to highlight a lot, let's say, when we're making an investment is that we do believe in being US first. We do sort of encourage a lot of the founders, especially coming out of Turkey, to go to US as well. Are we doing the right thing? Do you think that makes sense to be US first? For both of you guys, like Kaan, we were talking about this a little bit earlier as well. Life in SF probably sucks, especially nowadays. I don't think anyone sort of likes that, but from a business perspective, how important is it really to be in SF or New York or in other places when you think about building a global startup? Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think a big market is very important. And I mean, the US is a big market that's open. I mean, that was open.
That used to be
might
open.
Be open, you know, we'll see. So I do think like the US is a phenomenal place to build a company. I still think that very much so. And I do think like it is a meritocracy. So like if you work hard and if you're better, like you end up succeeding in that country. So I do think like the US is a phenomenal place to build a company. But obviously like there are other amazing markets globally as well.
You
that
guys are
can
also
go
active,
after.
quite active in MENA as well, right? For
We are,
example.
that's correct. We are. That's a phenomenal market too. But I mean, the US is bigger. Yes.
Özgün?
Yeah, for the type of stuff that we're doing, I
Yeah.
think you have to be in the US, and then I think even you have to be in SF, and it adds tremendous value in multiple ways. One, of course, you get immediate customer feedback. The market is much bigger, so you get to talk to way more people, and you get to see the trends in the market. That's one part of it. And I think another thing that's very important is there is this peer group. So if you place yourself with the right people, like for us, Y Combinator, we did Y Combinator again with Ubicloud. And one of the reasons was it puts you alongside other peers who are actively trying, who are actively learning, who are at the forefront. And it makes us push ourselves harder. So I think it does help tremendously in that regard too. There are exceptions to it. I think if you're doing gaming, it looks like Istanbul and Turkey is a great place
No
to
one
be
really
in.
cares, yeah.
Otherwise, I think for most startups, being in SF work-wise adds tremendous value.
Yeah, life-wise, no one likes it. I think other than Görkem, who I think enjoys it a lot. All right. Maybe a bit of a weird question, but if you were sort of going back, to your 20s, 25s, years old sort of, profile, or you're an engineer in Istanbul who wants to build a sort of a very big business coming out of sort of Turkey, what would be your brutally honest piece of advice that you'd give to a founder like that? That was good. Maybe we can start with you as well.
Well, you asked, we were chatting earlier
on
today,
this as well.
and it's very contextual, it's very person dependent. It's a hard question to answer because everyone's different, everyone's goals in life are different. So I'll answer a different question, like that maybe fits with the audience, or not this audience specifically, but like with Istanbul. I get, if that's all right.
Yeah.
When I travel to Turkey, when I travel to Istanbul, I have a lot of people asking me, how do I get rich? Like I think, and I don't know the reason, like there's this culture of making easy money, I can't speak for that. I think you can win the lottery, but statistically that's unlikely. What I can do is, I thought, I almost retired 3 times. I had 3 strikes. So I can share a bit more on how I struck out to see if there is a pattern there. I think the first time was I went to grad school, and then after grad school, during grad school I interned at Amazon. And then I had an offer from Google, pre-IPO. It was just a number. I didn't know what to make of it. And I declined. I said, I'll pass because I really like the guys at Amazon. And then if I did not pass, and if I took the offer and stayed on for a couple of years, I think I would have made it, like financially, just. And then I went to Amazon. So that was strike 1, where I passed on an opportunity that was right there. Strike 2 was when I went to Amazon, I learned a lot about the underlying infrastructure. And I initiated a project and I executed on that project, which came back to me as lots of stock awards. This is around the time Amazon stock was around like $60 or so. Then it went up to more than to $2,000. But then I wanted to learn more. So I left the company early. And the little stock that I had, I sold at $66, I remember. And if I just stayed on for a couple of more years, I think I again would have made it. And my last third strike was, I was in Silicon Valley. The whole Bitcoin thing was happening. I remember it was like $25 or so. And I was getting married. And I told my friends in here, because the Turkish, altın, the gold thing, guys, I don't want gold. For my wedding, buy me Bitcoin.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then they said, what is this Silicon Valley chip thing? You're way out there, and then they mocked me. Now they call me up and hey, I found this new coin, do I buy it? I'm like, dude, how the heck I know? It was hot there. And so they didn't buy me Bitcoin, they bought me gold. And it took a year because you can I knew only how to convert gold into cash to Bitcoin here in Istanbul. So next year we come here, we sell the gold, converted into dollars, and then I bought Bitcoin around like 5, because these idiots wouldn't get me Bitcoin. So by that time, it went up to $500. So I bought, and I held on to, if you look at Bitcoin's history, there's like 2 years where it stayed at $500. And then after 2 years, I'm like, and we were doing a startup, so we needed the money too. I'm like, okay, it's not going anywhere, so I sold.
Oh no.
Yeah, at $500. And then right afterwards, it started going up. So that was strike 3. And then we put the hard work into Citus, and that made that happen. Fortunately, that panned out. But I think if I...
Yeah, don't feel sorry for him, Kaan. Like, I think he's...
No, still feel sorry for me. I mean, it's just the number of, like, when I look back. But if I make a theme out of it, and I'll maybe put Bitcoin to the side a little, because it's like winning the lottery, but I think I was in the right place, geographically, to your earlier question, like San Francisco. And I did put in the hard work. Like, the reason I got such a lucrative offer from Google in the first place was I worked very hard during grad school, and I did really well too. And the reason I had the stock awards from Amazon was I worked really hard, I really understood the company's infrastructure, and I could initiate and complete a project that won me those stock awards. So be in the right place, and put in the hard work, and stay with it. Like is,
That's
I
your
think,
Bitcoin
my advice.
Learning.
Yeah.
Kaan, how about you? Like, what would be the brutally honest advice?
I think, I mean, in general, my own life philosophy is, number one, work hard. Like, it's, without hard work, nothing happens. Number two, like, be kind and honest towards people, because if you're kind and honest and you are a trustworthy person, like, people will want to work with you. Like, it's extremely important, and sometimes people don't really appreciate how important that is. And then third, I do think patience is extremely important, because you can wait for the right opportunity, and when the right opportunity is there, just go really, really big and go all in. So those are my 3 philosophies in life.
Great.
that I would suggest.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll leave it to the crowd to sort of, bug you and network with you. So I'll leave a bit of a time as well. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.